following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the Big Yak Podcast. This is I, Mike Pareto, and alongside me, as always, is Nico Benny. And today we have special guests. We have Gerod Holliman on. Gerod was a 7th-round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2014. And he also played football from Louisville. How are you today, Gerod?
I'm doing great.
Alrighty. We're doing all right over here. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Gerod. Talk about your football journey, what you're up to right now. The whole gist of that stuff.
Oh, man. So I'm from Miami, Florida. I have a twin sister. I grew up in a single family household with my mother and have 4 other younger brothers. I chose to go to Louisville with a bunch of other recruits from my area. I played on the South Florida Express team with. My journey to Louisville, it was awesome. It was one of the greatest choices I've made in my life. Just not off the success, but just being able to go to college. One of the first people in my household to go to college.
Congratulations on that.
Going out and being able to play with friends. Succeeding on the field was just a plus. Right now, I work for Miami-Dade County, and I'm an environmental technician. But on the side, also, I still train right now to stay ready for the XFL. Hopefully, that's my next stop. If I could get picked up, hopefully. So right now, I'm just waiting on the call.
All right. That's some good stuff. Talk a little bit about your time in Louisville. So you are a Jim Thorpe Award winner. So that's for being the best defensive back in the country for college football. Talk a little bit about your time in Louisville and that season you won the Jim Thorpe Award.
14 interceptions, may I add.
Yes.
Yeah. So that season, it was a rough season. It was I butted head with the head coach for most of the season. It was a hassle for that's the beginning in the beginning of that season, because during the season I was still fighting for a starting spot. So at least around up to the 4th game maybe, I still wasn't technically a starter. I didn't start until maybe around the 4th or 5th game of the season. But I had a great relationship with Coach Todd Grantham. He was the defensive coordinator for us, and even though my head coach didn't want me to start, he found ways to get me on the field. So that's what allowed me to continue being able to get playing time to succeed that year. I worked hard in the film room with my teammates, my coaches, my position coach, Coach Greg Brown. He's one of the reasons why I was successful that season. He gave me the opportunity. He let me be me. Coach Todd Grantham as well. He opened up the defense to where I had a lot of flexibility to kind of make things happen. Like before Todd Grantham was there, I was with Coach Charlie Strong. They really forced me to be more of a middle of the field safety, like to stay in the middle, stay as deep as the deepest. It's hard to be able to roam freely if you're forced to stay in one zone. So I appreciate Todd Grantham and Greg Brown for allowing me to be able to move how I like to move. So when I see things, I like to go.
Yes, sir.
With Coach Grantham, that was one of the things that allowed me to be who I am. My strength and conditioning coaches, man, they were so great. They helped me out a lot as far as like staying healthy, because before that season came, I had surgery on my shoulder. I had torn labrum. I was recovering from. I had a hip issue that came on throughout the season that they helped me micromanage. Uh, as far as like the scheme of things, like throughout the season, week in, week out, I also had Coach Terrell Buckley as the cornerbacks coach. And one thing that stuck with me from my time with him was he told me that it helped me catch interceptions. He's like, when you find a play that a team likes to run, remember it, and you act on it. That's one thing that helped me throughout the season as far as like catching interceptions. Every game, during preparation, during film room studies, and based off our defensive scheme, I always found that one play from each team that really stuck out to me, and I remembered it throughout the game. And I waited for it throughout the game, and when it happened, and that's when I mostly made most of the plays.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, you can tell that the study in the film room definitely played into it because, I mean, hey, you don't walk into 14 interceptions. You got to know where to be at the right time. I mean, you got to know the offense that you're playing against to get into those situations. So yeah, what was it like to kind of receive that award, and like where were you when you found out, or like what was that feeling like when you first heard?
I knew about the award coming into that season. One of the things that our coaches started during the season, they told us to write down the list of goals that you want to accomplish for the year. Me being the competitor that I am, one of my goals was to actually break the record. And that's always been a goal for me on every level. Even as a young kid playing little league football, I wanted it. It was no record in little league. We never, but it was about having the most interceptions or producing the most. Better yet, than another player on the team. We compete with each other and against each other, so to say. So like, growing up, I played wide receiver. I had another wide receiver who played with me. We competed on who's going to catch the most touchdown passes. So like that kind of led up to high school. High school, when I got to high school, is okay. Who has the record for interceptions in my school? Okay, I know this the goal I want to beat. So when I got to Louisville, they had the same thing, and I actually Googled it before the season. I was like, let me see what's the most interceptions in the season. And 14 was the number, and that's one of my goals. And then I always wanted to be the best, so that's how I found out about Jim Thorpe, that award. Coming into college, you know about the Heisman and stuff like that, but some goals are a little tougher to reach than others. So like, knowing I play defense, the Heisman usually goes to an offensive guy. So I focus on the Jim Thorpe Award and trying to get the interception record. Those were my goals going into the season, and being All-American, of course.
Alrighty. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Justin Gilmore. We've known him for a little bit. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago. We also had Marcus Smith as well on the show twice. Talk a little bit about your relationship with Justin.
Yeah, Justin and Marcus, those are my guys, man. My time in Louisville, I met Justin in Louisville. We played on the same team, but furthermore, I met him because he actually was my barber, so to say. He was my barber.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he cut hair too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Justin is fire, man. We got cool because his energy, his vibe, everything about him is cool. You feel me? He has a business mindset. Everything is always about succeeding in life. So, and that's kind of like the people you want to have around you. anything we do, like he always wants to see. Just same as me. I always want to see you do your best. You feel me? And succeed. And that's the kind of energy I get from him.
Yeah.
So we also played the same position.
Right.
So we've been tight since I got there, pretty much, so to say. Also we played basketball. Basketball is one of my other passions. We played on a little intramural league team. We had our own little Team USA. We used to go around. We used to compete against the basketball team. So like the chemistry the bond that we built over my time there at Louisville, he's like a brother to me.
Yeah, lasts a lifetime, right?
Most definitely.
Right.
I want to ask if you watched Victory Formation yet, and what your thoughts on it are, and what he's doing with that show.
So he's been in contact with me as far as like getting my thoughts on like the editing part of it. So I've been able to give pointers and stuff about the editing part. I haven't actually had time to sit down and watch it. And now that we talking about it, I gotta make the time to fully watch the video now, because it's like it's been out for a little while, and it's just like all the stuff that I'm doing, all the traveling and everything that I got going on, is just so hard to sit down and pretty much just like today.
Yeah.
Soon to go to a football tournament.
I want to talk a little bit about. We've actually met before in person, Gerod. Funny to say this. So back in about, I think it was like around 2015 when you got drafted. Justin had a football camp at Niagara Falls High School.
Yeah. Camp at the school.
Yeah. And I was actually in that camp, and there's a picture. We have a picture together. Actually, I don't know if you see it or not.
Let me here. I'll send it into the group chat that we got with Justin right now.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it on your end or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't see it right now.
Yeah,
it's up on our screen. You'll see it, and you're like, wow, it's a throwback. And it's funny when you look at that picture, because you're like, is that Nico or is that Mike?
Yeah, we look similar. Yeah. But yeah, talk a little bit about that camp. You know, how old was I? I think I was like 15. You know, for me, that was, you know, crazy to sit there and participate in a camp with
NFL players,
you know, athletes of your guys' caliber. How did that feel, you know, working in a camp? I don't know if you've done other camps as well, but you know, I don't know if you remember that camp. You know, would you be able to just reminisce a little bit?
No, most definitely. So for me, it's always a blast, because I love. Even you could ask Justin. Teaching is like, it's something that comes so natural to me. Like, as far as I don't want to say not like social studies or something, but like as far as sports wise and helping people get better on the field, like that's one of my passions. That's why after I finish playing, my goal is to be a coach.
Okay.
That camp specifically. It was great. It was my first camp as far as like traveling wise, and being in Niagara, Buffalo, going to Toronto. So those were new experiences for me, and I had a great time, especially doing it with people who I played college ball with, who are also excelling.
Right.
So going out and being around kids and being able to have the ability and being blessed to teach them and show them the right way to do things, and the way that what all of the techniques and tools they need to succeed at the college level, high school level, NFL level, no matter what level. It's just always a blessing and a warm feeling in my heart being able to go out there and show those guys.
Right. Yeah. Just as you know, as I said before, it was just, a crazy experience. Being 15 and being surrounded by people, athletes like you guys, I was just like, like starstruck. Yeah, I remember like I posted the picture. I took one with Preston Brown as well. And I was like, oh my God, like these are NFL players. Oh my God, like it was just crazy to me. But talk a little bit about getting drafted. So you were drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 7th round of 2015. Talk about that feeling and that experience for us.
So it was at first, man, when hearing my name, it was like a dream come true. Like my goal was always to make it to the NFL as a young child. But at the same time, I kind of had mixed emotions about it, because at the same, obviously everybody wants to go first round, second round. Those are the goals.
Right.
It's when you're getting drafted, when you're in the process of getting drafted. Now, I'm truly blessed to even be a part of the draft class. Don't get me wrong. So I had mixed emotions at the time, but at the same time, I had a great time. I had a draft party. All my friends were able to come down. We all got to hang out and kind of experience the same process together as well. So everything I went through, the people who I love and who I hang with, they were right there by me. And it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, be there with your family and, go, have that moment of being drafted and being there with your family, it was probably just surreal. I couldn't even imagine how special that probably would have felt.
Yeah, I bet it's a feeling like no other.
Yeah.
So even when we talk about it, even in my specific draft moment, I was actually on my way to the airport.
Okay.
So I had a draft party. Everybody came every day. The first and second round, the first round was on a different day than the fourth round. So our party carried over to the next day. So for 3 days I've been with the family, and then now it's time for everybody to go home. It's like, so I was actually taking the mother of my first 2 children. I was taking her to the airport because she was down with the family, and I expected to be drafted before I booked her flight. But on the way to the airport, and as we were walking in, I was sending them in because I wasn't leaving. I got a call from Coach Tomlin.
Oh, that must have been something.
Yeah, he told me that if I'm still on the board, that they're going to get me. And he had the next pick. After I got off the phone with him, I got a call from Tampa Bay with Coach Lovie Smith.
Yep.
Coach Lovie Smith told me that they didn't have any more picks for a defensive back at the time, but they would love for me to come into camp. I also got a call from Tennessee. Tennessee wanted me to come into camp. Most of the calls before or after Coach Tomlin were basically future available spots for me after the draft. But Coach Tomlin called and he told me that they were going to pick me with their 7th spot, with the 7th pick. And so it was just so I felt so accomplished and so excited, and I was so tuned in to their pick coming up and just hearing my name called. Like it was great. Justin was actually there with me.
Oh, he was?
Awesome.
Justin, he drove. He was in the car with me when I got drafted.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
That's cool that he got to experience that with you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about so you were drafted by Pittsburgh, and then you also played for Tampa Bay, correct?
Yes, after I was released from Pittsburgh, Coach Lovie Smith, he picked me up and brought me in on practice squad for the remainder of the season. I got picked up probably late November, early December. Right before the last game, their last game, and I got to practice with those guys. I got to be around a bunch of people that I competed against in college, like for instance, like Jameis Winston, for one. He's a cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of built a nice little bond with while I was there. It was an amazing experience, especially being back in Florida. The good weather. That Pittsburgh weather was kind of crazy.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's like up here, so I mean it's not
drastic.
That good, yeah.
Especially going from December into January and all that.
So we don't want to keep you up for too long. Do you have anything else to add before we sign off, or?
Nah, man. I'm just glad you guys invited me to the show. It's a blessing to be here and be able to speak my piece. I appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you, and thanks again for your time and for coming on. I know you're a busy man with everything going on, and you're like you said pre-show, you're off to go play in a tournament right after this. So
yes, sir.
Once again, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you having you in.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you, and also, good luck for continuing your journey and stuff like that. Hopefully, everything works out for you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for coming on.
That was Gerod Holliman, 2014 Jim Thorpe Award winner. That's
Alrighty.
awesome. That's
yeah,
so awesome.
That was a good story. I like that. He's a really cool dude. He when I met him back probably what was like 7-8 years ago, it was just like he was cool like that back then too.
Yeah.
So fast forward now, it's glad to see him still have that like same kind of
Cool.
attitude, cool, calm, but like he still has that like that determination,
Yeah.
That drive still. It's good to see that because some people they lose it.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, thank you, Gerod, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We're going to transition into the NFC South. We can take these off. Forgot about that.
Take off the headphones. Quick headphone break.
Let the ears breathe. Woo. Alrighty. So, since Gerod was a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I figured, hey, let's talk about some Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Let's talk
and some
about
NFC
the
South.
Buccaneers.
Yeah. So, we're going to start off with Tampa Bay, in honor of Gerod. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a little bit of a different spot. I mean, Super Bowl champions a couple years ago with Tom Brady, and it's kind of just been a little bit of they went to the playoffs and played against the Rams in the NFC Championship, I think 2 years ago, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then last year they were bounced by Dallas.
Yep.
Bounced by Dallas. I think they were a first-round bounce from Dallas. And my personal opinion, we talked about it on the show all throughout last year, is that division was just abysmal. This division as a whole is abysmal.
This was the NFC East of 2 years ago of last year.
Yeah, it was just like all of these teams, if it wasn't for, the playoff format of where, if you win the division, you're automatically in.
None of these teams
should have been in. So, I mean, you have Tom Brady at quarterback, but it just wasn't working out as a whole. The transition from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles, it was kind of apparent.
Yeah,
I would say. So, I'm not knocking Todd Bowles, but I think as a head coach, I'm not that big of a fan of him. As a coordinator, I think he's wonderful.
He's one of the best. I think he's one of the best defensive coordinators.
Yeah, one of the best.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady retired. Hopefully for good. I'm pretty sure it's for good.
For real this time.
You never know
for real.
with this. You never know with this dude. You never know. But as of right now, as of April 12th, 2023, he's retired. So we're gonna run with it. Yep. They went out and they signed Baker Mayfield, the Rams' second half of the season starter from last year.
Moranto's favorite quarterback.
He's
He's laughing behind the set right now.
Yeah, good old Baker Mayfield.
Don't get me started.
They also have Kyle Trask, draft pick from last year.
2021, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Oh,
Second
yeah,
year,
I forgot.
Second round
Yeah.
pick from 2021.
2 years ago. Kyle Trask is also there. Could see him maybe steal a starting quarterback spot. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Right now, it's them two on the roster. We'll see where they go in the draft. I know Nico has some big plans for.
Yes, sir, I've been singing this pounding this bell, singing this alarm for the last few weeks now, and come to find out, Mr. Hendon Hooker is in Tampa Bay
as we speak.
I think so, or he
Almost.
was here earlier. He was in Tampa Bay visiting with the Buccaneers. In my latest mock draft, I have Tampa Bay going Hendon Hooker at number 19 overall.
Yeah. For me, see, here's the thing. I like Hendon Hooker a lot. I think without his injury, he is a first-round caliber quarterback. That being said, do I see him going first round? I don't know. I mean,
here's the reason why I have him in the first round.
Let's
Is
see.
because he has Tampa Bay has Seattle right there at pick 20, right after them.
Right.
Now, Seattle, that's their second first-round pick. They can address the need that they need most, and that's defensive line with their number 5 overall. So Geno Smith is on a 3-year deal, and it seems like he'll probably retire after those 3 years are up.
Right.
Or if the Geno plan goes south, they need an insurance option because they have a well-put-together team. For teams that are in this, there's only 2 teams like this that are in this situation. It's the Seahawks and the Lions. The Bucks pick ahead of both of them. If they don't pick Hendon Hooker here at 19, I don't think they'll have the option to take him in the second round. So
Right.
they almost have their hands forced unless Seattle or Detroit jump him. So I think that Hendon Hooker is a name that will start to rise, especially as we lead up to the draft and get through these top 30 visits.
Yeah. So for me, I have Tampa Bay going Georgia edge Nolan Smith, and that was kind of a interesting pick for me when I was making this mock a couple days ago. They have Shaq Barrett still, great veteran presence. And they
Their
have
pass rush wasn't that great.
Their
I think
yeah.
Nolan Smith would be a great pick if they don't go quarterback.
Yeah, they have Joe Tryon. I believe he was an early pick for them 2 years ago. I want to say, and he has he's been all right, but it's a little underwhelming.
Pro Football Focus has Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush as 4th worst in the league.
4th worst.
So take that.
So
for
you get
what
a guy
it
like
is.
Nolan Smith, who's an athletic freak, coming from Georgia. He's going up against a lot of these NFL caliber athletes. I think that's a good pick right there. Hendon Hooker, quarterback, should be addressed at some point.
Yep.
For sure. But if I don't know, I think you get Hendon Hooker in the second if you're Tampa Bay. That's my take. I know you have I know you think differently. That's okay.
And if they don't go quarterback, I'm not gonna sit here and be like that's a bad pick because they need defensive end.
Right.
They need a good pass rusher, and number 19 seems like a good sweet spot for these pass rushers in this class. So if Hendon Hooker's gone, by all means, I think that they'll go. They'll go pass rush.
The only player that I really am paying attention in this draft really heavily is Hooker, and I just can't believe that people aren't talking about him more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard you were saying that his stock is kind of going up a little bit all of a sudden, which is great. Because if he didn't get hurt,
he's a first round pick quarterback.
he's better.
He might jump
top
Will Levis.
5.
Yeah.
Right? He beat these quarterbacks that we're all talking about drafting. His team was a better team. He beat some of these guys. And I was watching some of the way he plays. I know he was injured, but everybody gets hurt at some point, right? How is he not? If I was Tampa Bay, I saw the thing that he was down there, and I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad. I think he's a player that I think's got a pretty good future ahead of him. I'm gonna see what happens with him and see if someone smart So he's not going to make it far into the second round.
He,
Someone's got to be picking.
Well,
him.
here's the thing.
Plus, somehow they know something that nobody else knows about his injury.
There's always a big gap between what the media thinks and what actual NFL team thinks. It's a fallacy that happens every single year, day in and day out. The media says one thing, the NFL teams, or at least what we hear NFL teams saying, say the other.
Right.
I want to give a little quote from Ted Nugent out of The Athletic. He actually talked about Hendon Hooker, and he said that James Palmer on the Cut to It podcast hosted by Steve Smith, James Palmer said that there are plenty of teams that have him above the bottom two, Richardson and Will Levis. There are teams that have him ranked number 3 quarterback in this class, and just right below Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are the top 1, top 2, but he's anywhere from NFL teams, the QB2 to QB5. And, if you have that high of a grade and your first few quarterbacks are already gone in the first 5 picks, Hendon Hooker is great value for a team. Right. Now, again, I haven't studied all of Hendon Hooker's film. I don't know his main strengths and weaknesses just yet. I know he's a great player. I know his injury hurt his draft stock, and people like to say that he's old, but who cares? Tom Brady played till he was in his mid-40s. You're going to get being 22 versus 24 coming out of the draft. If you're a quarterback, that doesn't mean as much as a running back.
Right.
So I think Hendon Hooker is going to go, if not day 1, early day 2.
Yeah, and there's a couple of these teams that. Tampa Bay could trade up, too. If he sneaks out of the first round, Tampa Bay could be a team that could trade up to that early second round, too.
The other benefit of having him in the first round is that 5th-year option. Now, quarterback on a rookie deal, if it pans out, you have your franchise.
Right.
So I think that is also another reason that he has going for him in staying in the first round. And if 5 quarterbacks are taken in the first round, that could shake up a lot of things.
And that's one of my things. It's just man, I don't know. Like last time we saw 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken was the Josh Allen, Josh Rosen 2018 draft, and you saw only two out of those 5 quarterbacks really were successful. I'm not trying to knock the other guys.
None of those guys are Josh Allen.
No.
Or Lamar Jackson.
You're Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Right? Let's be honest. I don't think any of these guys are going to be that
Yeah.
good. Right? What does any of these guys? I don't know. I think if 5 guys go into the first round would be kind of weird.
I will say this to counterpoint you. Anthony Richardson has the floor of quarterback 32, but the ceiling of the greatest quarterback of all time. I will put that into existence right now. And this is the same world that has Patrick Mahomes in it.
He's definitely an interesting. I just don't he's one of those guys. I just don't know. We're gonna see. It's gonna be where he ends up. If it's the right team and the right quarterback coach management system, that they're patient and they develop them correctly. Because a lot of things can go wrong. A lot of people were not real thrilled with how Josh's first year went. Jalen Hurts has gotten a lot. Let's see. I think that I don't know. I think when it's all said and I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I kind of feel like the first 2 guys, I just don't know if they seem to be. I'm less interested in what happens with Stroud. I don't think he's going to be a big star. I just don't think he is. I don't think, and he's the one everybody seems to talk about all the time.
I'll say this about Anthony Richardson: there has never been an athlete, just a pure athlete of his caliber at quarterback. I think he is more athletic than Josh Allen was coming out or Patrick Mahomes coming out. That's just a fact.
Like a Randall Cunningham.
Even
you'd have to go back that far, and obviously the physiques and everything were much different at that time. But you'd have to go back to and the thing about Randall Cunningham is, and as good as he was, and the much success as he had, he was way generation. He was in the wrong generation. If he was a little bit later, if that guy comes out with the training, the athletics, and everything that they have for training now, Randall Cunningham would have been a much bigger star. But they just didn't focus on and plus, you could do just about anything you wanted to a quarterback back then. Yeah, you could run him over with a truck, and nobody would say another thing.
I want to add this too with Anthony Richardson. There is like I said, there's a world where he goes number 1 overall to the Panthers over C.J. Stroud, over Bryce Young. Because hey, if I'm Carolina and I'm trading up to the number 1 spot, I I'm only doing that to get the exact guy I want, and who's to say that's not Anthony Richardson? I mean, hey, you got to roll big. If you have the number 1 overall pick, your franchise depends on it, you're swinging for the fences. You got Frank Reich as your head coach. You see what he's done with quarterbacks in the past. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, even Carson Wentz of old. And Matt Ryan as well. Back when Matt Ryan was Matty Ice. I think he'd be the right guy to go to, number 1 overall.
This is my take on Anthony Richardson. I agree. He is very athletically gifted. He has that ceiling and he has that floor. I think it all depends on, his situation. With Patrick Mahomes, he got drafted into like a damn near perfect.
Oh, it was perfect.
Perfect situation,
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, have Andy Reid as your head coach. You sat behind Alex Smith, who was a pretty good, damn good quarterback. And the Chiefs' offense was solid too. And so they sat him for a year, and then he was ready to cook out of that second year. With Josh, Josh was kind of just thrown out there. I didn't like how they handled things that year. He had the whole Tyrod Taylor scenario from the year before. Then you had Nathan Peterman. You start the first 1.5 games, and then you have Josh come out there, and our offense was just horrible. And so, and that's where that first season where a lot of people were critical. It's not. I don't think it was Josh's fault. It was just he was thrown out into and fed into the wolves. So that's the thing with Anthony Richardson is if he gets drafted to a team who's, say if he goes to Houston. Houston, I still think has a little bit of ways to go. Carolina still has, they got a bolster.
Carolina's got Frank Reich.
Yeah, Frank Reich, but he's no. Frank Reich is a good coach.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter about the pieces that they have right now.
Yeah.
It's more about the coaching and the system that they're put in. So, who's to say Josh Allen and Anthony Richardson have similar first rookie years?
They could. It just all depends on what happens, And that's the thing is in Josh's rookie year, we saw a lot of those flashes that we saw now. A lot of those oh, wow, he's he could do this, but he's so limited by what's around him. That's my thing.
And see how he panned out.
And now he's panned out because what happened was, Brandon Beane, got him on the phone, hired him, and he surrounded Josh with guys like Stephon Diggs, guys, Gabriel Davis at times, and it's. I just see if he goes, whoever goes number 1 to the Panthers. And we're going to talk about this after Tampa Bay. They need help.
Yep.
Receiving wise, because their receivers, we're going to talk about them. Their receivers are a little scary. So I think regardless of who goes number 1, it's going to be growing pains for sure, regardless of what happens. But if he goes, Anthony Richardson goes as projected with the Colts, his ceiling has a better chance of him accomplishing that ceiling because Indianapolis, I think Shane Steichen, we saw what he did with Philadelphia as well. So I think he can unlock some of those things that we.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not saying that Indianapolis is a bad system.
No.
I'm just saying if Carolina is going up to number 1,
I
want him in my system.
Right. And I think Frank Reich can do good with them. It just all depends on what they do after this year because the future of the team looks kind of sus right now. That's my only thing with Carolina and Houston. But then you get to Indianapolis, and Indianapolis is they still have a lot of good pieces in Indianapolis on offense. And then Shane Steichen, I thought was a good hire.
I agree.
So with Tampa Bay, you have them going Hendon Hooker. I have them going Nolan Smith. Two big needs that they need to address.
Quarterback and edge.
So either way you slice it.
Team.
Either way you slice it. I know my last mock I had them going Brian Breesy as well. Interior D line is another thing that they could address. Another position. They have Vita Vea, but their other two they have a 3-4. So they run a 3-4. So they have 3 big guys on the line. They have Logan Hall, Vita Vea, and Greg Gaines. I think if you pair another guy with Vita Vea, that front three would look very nice. You know, another big bulky guy like Brian Breesy. And I think Breesy could be there in that range. We're going to talk about it where Brian Breesy goes in a little bit. But, I mean, also with Tampa Bay, they cut Leonard Fournette. You know, they're banking on Rashad White being their starter. Rashad White had a promising rookie year. He's on my fantasy dynasty team. You know, I thought he had some nice runs here and there. It was just that whole Tampa Bay offense was it got sloppy.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, they go back to the drawing board. Offensive coordinator Dave Canales. Never really heard of him before. I think he's a first-time coordinator, I want to say. Could be wrong. But they also have Chase Edmonds, you know. Could be a good guy to spell Rashad White as well. Did you look up?
He would be first-time offensive coordinator. He was previously in Seattle as their quarterbacks coach.
Interesting.
See what he did with Geno Smith. He was the passing game coordinator in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
And he actually was with Seattle for his entire time before going to Tampa Bay. From 2010 to 2022, he was in Seattle with different assistant coaching positions.
Yeah, and they still have some solid pieces on this roster, but looking at their offensive line, you know, Ali Marpet, former, you know, all-pro on their offensive line. He's gone. He retired.
Yep.
They still have Ryan Jensen at center.
They got Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs. You know, first-round pick from a couple years ago. But after that, you have Brandon Walton at left tackle, Luke Godecki at guard, and then you have Nick Leverett at your other guard. So, needless to say, you could also go offensive line here, too. If I was Tampa Bay, I'd be kind of tempted if Paris Johnson starts to fall. Like as we talked about last week, I think he's the best true left tackle in this draft. If he starts to fall a little bit, I don't think he gets past Chicago or the Jets. Mm-hmm. But in this magical scenario, if he falls and Hendon Hooker, you know, that's tough because then you either get your cornerstone left tackle or your cornerstone quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'd be tempted to go for Paris Johnson if I were Tampa Bay too, if he starts to fall.
Yeah, all depends on what their board's looking like. There also is reports that linebacker Devin White requested a trade as well.
Yep.
They said that Tampa Bay has no intention of trading him, but you never know how that's going to work out. So we'll see where that plays out, but you know, losing a guy like Devin White would be very big in this defense.
Would it though?
I think it would be. I think Devin White is a solid. He's not, you know, he's not a top. I wouldn't say he's like a top 3 inside linebacker. I would say
hell no.
Hell no. But I think he's a solid inside linebacker. You know, I'm not saying he's. I would probably put him in like my top 10.
He's had his 2 worst years these past 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Actually, since Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. It hasn't been the greatest for him. I think a change of scenery would be nice for him.
Yeah. If I were to give you 10 inside linebackers, I'd probably put him, you know, probably like the 8 to 10 range. You know. But because, you know, there's not – when you look at true inside linebackers in the NFL, you know, it's kind of hard to, you know, map out good young ones. But I'd probably put Devin White.
Devin White was, going back to Pro Football Focus, he was Pro Football Focus's 74th ranked linebacker.
74th?
Yeah.
I mean –
he had for total defensive grade, he had a 43.7.
A 43.7.
For running defense, a 36.7. Pass rush, he had a 71.7, which is green. And the coverage, a 49.1.
And that was last year?
Yeah, this was last year.
Well. I mean, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing also is, I mean, I'm not taking, I mean, I don't know. Pro Football Focus, I mean, some of the grades are a little.
The grades, I will say.
Some of the grades are,
the grades are a little interesting.
Interesting. So I'm not going to, take what Pro Football Focus said with a grain of salt. But, I mean, I still think it's not that bad to say that he's, at the bottom of, like, a top 10 inside linebacker list. But Needless to say,
Top 10, bottom 10. Yeah, just flip the list upside down.
he's not top. He's not top. He's not at the top, but he's at the bottom of a top 10.
Fair.
That's what I say.
I think he definitely is not playing up to his number 5 overall draft potential.
Right.
But I think a change of scenery and a change of scheming would help him.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's an interesting case all around. I don't know if this is like the ultimate buy low. Number 5 overall pick, had his worst season of his career. He just requested a trade.
yeah.
If I'm Tampa Bay, I'm holding on to him like for dear life because he's going to be worth what, a 6th rounder.
Right, yeah. I would hold on to it.
But then again, he's on his last year of his rookie deal. So, if you're either going to get something out of him or nothing out of him. If you think that he can contribute more as a player that you could pick in this year's draft, do you keep him or do you deal him for that extra pick to get a good core special teams player later on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the value right now is not there.
Right.
So I mean, you might as well just he's on a rookie deal. You might as well just play it out and see.
I think his name value is what boosts his stock quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, being a number 5 overall pick as a linebacker
Comes with a pedigree.
I mean, it's
Interior linebacker.
linebacker. That's the thing. Is just like, we might have to like come up with like a top 10 middle linebacker list because it's like it's kind of hard.
You could play Would You Rather, interior linebacker edition.
Maybe. I mean, we could maybe do that. Let's save it for after we
for
cover.
the draft.
we could do it before we head out. We got to move on to the Carolina Panthers, who hold the number 1 overall pick. And as we were mentioning, a little bit ago, the possibilities of Anthony Richardson going number 1, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. The consensus is they're going quarterback. That's the obvious
I was so tempted in my second 2.0 mock draft to put Anthony Richardson number 1 overall.
Right. I just don't have enough. I don't have enough rumors to put him at like number 1, to be honest. Like, and again, I haven't heard enough movement. The movement has been Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at 1. That's all I've heard.
Yeah, I've been consistently putting C.J. Stroud at number 1 overall. Partly because giving Frank Reich as a coach, he opts for the bigger quarterbacks. Like I said, Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. He works with those guys, and that's just the kind of mold that Frank Reich has.
Yeah.
And then when you compare C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud is built bigger. He's got he's heavier. He's got more meat on his bones than Bryce Young. Pause. He's got a few inches on him. Pause.
This is getting a little crazy.
Hey, yo!
Oh, man.
I didn't know that was a stat that they wrote down.
He got a couple inches on him.
That's what she said.
But that being said, there's no C.J. Stroud it seems more like their guy than Bryce Young.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. But if I'm the GM of the Panthers, and there's a reason why I'm not an NFL GM, I'm still taking Anthony Richardson number 1 overall. But in my mock draft, I think just given what I know and what I've seen, I think they'll probably go C.J. Stroud.
I'm still leaning C.J. Stroud, regardless of the reports of I think it was Mort Report came out with the rumor that they like Bryce Young more. But I agree too. I think C.J. Stroud. I think just like the measurables, might have Bryce Young beat. Honestly, and it's the measurables. Meat on the bone.
You use the safe word.
Got some inches on him. Bryce Young to me is, he's not. We've seen how short quarterbacks have panned out in the NFL. Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. Those are 2 of the biggest stories. Regardless, I'm not knocking Bryce for his size and whatnot, but I just think stat wise and size, I think C.J. Stroud has him a little bit more. But the reason if Bryce Young goes number 1 is, being in Alabama. That's another
And he's
thing.
a complete quarterback.
He's-
He's everything.
yeah.
He checks all the boxes that you want.
You give
for
him a little bit
quarterback.
more size, he's number one. in
Give him
my
an
opinion.
NFL weight room, and I think he'll grow.
Yeah.
I think he'll put on some weight.
Yeah.
And kind of sway off the.
Yeah, I'm
the
not knocking
naysayers.
him for his talent just because of his size, but as we said, it's panned out. But when you're dealing with number 1 overall, number 2 overall, these are some things. These are some of the little things that some of these NFL GMs are going to look into.
Do you think GMs people always are like, oh, Ohio State quarterback. This is pre-Justin Fields, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ohio State quarterbacks, they never work. They never work. They never ever work. Do you think that plays into it a little bit, where it's like, okay, you have a guy coming out of Alabama or a guy coming out of Ohio State. They are about the same comp as a player.
Yeah.
Do you lean towards Alabama's system more?
You lead. I feel like success-wise, I don't know if this is a cold take or a hot take, but Alabama. I think Alabama's quarterbacks have been a little bit more successful. You have Mac Jones, you have Tua Tagovailoa,
You had Tua, Mac, and Jalen Hurts all in the same
Jalen
quarterback
Hurts,
room.
all at the same time. With Ohio State, I mean, really, who has been successful quarterbacks coming out of Ohio State?
Justin Fields.
We have Justin Fields, pre-Justin Fields. It's kind of a murky list. Some of these guys either like transfer or they. I don't know why, but Cardell Jones is coming into my head.
Cardell Jones
Jones is like in my head right now.
Cardell Jones. There was Dwayne
I looked at
Haskins.
that list a few weeks ago, just because everybody's always talking about how Ohio State quarterbacks just don't really amount to anything.
Yeah.
And I went through the list, and going back even 15 years, nobody's. Oh
Right.
my God, I forgot he went there. There was nobody on there that. Well, I wish I had his rookie card. There was nothing. There was nobody really on that list. I mean, obviously, there's other. To answer your question, I think they do. I don't think it's the number one thing.
It's a factor though.
But they're looking at it like this school their guys don't pan out. And it's not on them as much as the fact they don't come out NFL ready, and we're not going to take a risk with a first-round pick on a well, it might work out. If I'm in the 3rd round or the 5th round, sure. But I don't think they're going to take a chance on their first pick. I mean, I think that the
Not
only
even
chance, if
a
I
first
was
pick,
if
the
I
first
was a
pick.
quarterback, if I was, let's say it was the Jets, and I had an Ohio State quarterback that was available in the 3rd round, I'd pick him, because I don't know what's going to happen if I've got Aaron Rodgers or not, or if he's going to stay for 1 year or 12 minutes. So I mean, but I just don't think. I think that you're wrong. I think that you're right. I think they're thinking about all this stuff. I mean, where are you going to get a wide receiver from? There's colleges you look at. They know how to prepare wide receivers for the NFL, UCLA or whatever. And I think that that's definitely. It's in the back of their mind. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not top of the list, but they're definitely thinking about it.
And then you see some of these other quarterbacks. I mean, Florida hasn't generated that much quarterbacks.
Not in a while.
Not in a while. Tim Tebow, but he didn't really pan out in the NFL.
He had a playoff start.
You have Josh Allen coming from Wyoming. Name me a Wyoming quarterback that was successful. You can't really.
It feels like every year there's that Big West. That Big Western
country
quarterback.
boy.
Big Western country quarterback. This year, who is it? Will Levis, but he came out of Kentucky, so kind of
Maybe.
I don't
know.
I don't know.
That's Kentucky's yeehaw to me.
Yeah.
That's West. That's not like
That's
West
not
Coast.
West, that's like
It's not West Coast, but when we're sitting, in Buffalo, that's West.
Everything's West.
Everything's West.
I do
Cleveland's
want to
West.
bring up this stat. I want to bring up this stat when comparing Alabama and Ohio State quarterbacks. Since 1993, Alabama has had 113 starts, for NFL starts out of their quarterbacks that they produced.
Oh,
So
God.
since
Ohio State's
93, Alabama's had 113. Ohio State has 68.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like
And you got to include Justin Fields.
24.
Justin
Yeah.
Fields tacks on another 14, but at the same time, Jalen Hurts also tacks it on.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit of recency bias here between teams, because you look at Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones. They all were drafted out of Alabama within a 2-year period. But then you look at the list before. A.J. McCarron, Greg McElroy, Brody Croyle, and Jay Barker were the prior quarterbacks drafted.
I mean, A.J. McCarron had his moments.
Yeah.
He's XFL now, but, you know, he had his moments.
And
you're not burning a first round on that.
No. And then you look back, and then, of course, we know Ohio State's. Dwayne Haskins, Cardell Jones, Terrell Pryor, Troy Smith, Craig Krenzel, Steve Bellisari, Joe Germain, Bobby Hoying.
God. Those are some names.
Yeah.
God.
Those are some names. So, you know, it's
tough.
It's really top-heavy
Yeah.
in recent years. Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Mac Jones, 2020, 2021. Justin Fields, 2021.
Yeah.
And then you add C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, hopefully, to that mix.
It's all just depending on how much they like the guy. I mean, he has the stats, for sure. It's just, that is probably in the back of their minds, though, that, he goes to Ohio State, 63 starts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not like, I don't know. I wouldn't. It's definitely a factor, but it's not like a deciding factor.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. So right now we're both agreeing on C.J. Stroud number 1.
As of now, unless something comes up that makes me, all I need is like one little flick, and I'm picking Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, they both had their top 30 visits with them at the same time.
Yep.
So we'll see. Carolina, as we've mentioned, the rest of the roster. I mean, the receivers are kind of scary. I mean, not right now actually. I mean,
they grabbed DJ Chark.
They got DJ Chark. I remember we were talking about them before, and it was before DJ Chark got signed. It was before Adam Thielen got signed.
I'm going to be honest. I want to point this out because people like to say that Carolina is like they don't have anything on their roster. I would go against that. You know, they're not the best roster in the league. They're not stepped into like
they have some names,
like loads of talent. But let's take a look. Let's say a potential C.J. Stroud. What are you getting drafted into? Miles Sanders in your running back. Hayden Hurst is your tight end. DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, and 2021 second-round pick Terrace Marshall as your top 3 receivers. You have a young, fresh Ikem Ekwonu as your left tackle. He's been really great. Austin Corbett is your right guard. A young defense. And Carolina still has picks, mind you. They still have number 39 overall. They have number 90. So they still have 2 picks in the top 100, and they have all 5 of their picks in the top 150. Mm-hmm. So their team is still growing. I don't think that this is going to be like a last place team next year. Whoever quarterback it might be, I think they have enough tools so that where you can compare like Josh Allen's rookie year where he had absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
He has more tools than Josh Allen did in 2018.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, we talked about it last show with the whole Zay Jones thing where, you know, I got called out for saying, Kelvin Benjamin, Zay Jones, and Andre Holmes. I mean, they do have some names. I'm not going to say that they're, you know, a barren wasteland. But some of these, I don't know, it's just not enough for me. I don't know. Yeah. And again, DJ Chark, you know, does he replicate what he did with Detroit last year? I mean, we don't really know. Adam Thielen, we've never seen him not in a Minnesota Vikings uniform. He could be not the same Adam Thielen. You know,
he's
it's a whole
32 years old.
Yeah, it's a whole different scheme. Terrace Marshall, we just haven't seen him at all.
Yep.
It's just like nothing.
Let's not forget about playmaker Laviska Shenault. He's there.
He's there, but he's just I need more.
Yep.
I need more from him.
Hayden
Hurst is a solid.
It's unfortunate because they needed an alpha like DJ Moore.
Yeah, it's Hayden Hurst is a solid, you know, pass catching tight end. Running back, I mean, Chuba Hubbard has had his ups and downs. Miles Sanders, I'm not a Miles Sanders guy. I am not a Miles.
Carolina was.
Carolina was
4-year deal.
Carolina was, but you know, I was talking, you know, when we were doing fantasy football drafts and how I try to. Miles Sanders is always the guy I stay away from in fantasy football. I just didn't like how he was a non-factor in the Super Bowl. That's kind of just a sign for me. And they let him walk. I'm just not a Miles Sanders guy. I don't know. There's people out there that are. Carolina is. I need more. I need more. And it's not, I do agree with the point, like Josh Allen had more, or whoever gets drafted has more to work with, for sure. But I still think I still need more. That's me.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah.
Free agency wise, they didn't really lose anybody. Real notable. Deontay Foreman left. He split starting job with Chuba Hubbard when Christian McCaffrey left. Veteran linebacker Corey Littleton, not the biggest loss in my opinion. Matthew Ioannidis, I think some of he's a defensive lineman who's a good rotational veteran, but his days as like a prominent defensive lineman, I think, are over. But yeah, number one consensus quarterback. It's looking like one of these three guys, Young, Stroud, Richardson, they could go out absolute farthest galaxy, get Will Levis, but I just don't think it's going to.
I don't think Will Levis is going to be the pick there.
No.
I'm even looking at their defense is so good, man. Look at that secondary. They grabbed Von Bell, Jeremy Chin, Dante Action Jackson, Xavier Woods, J.C. Horn.
They have a solid secondary. I will say this.
Come on, they got a solid back seven. Get Shaq Thompson in there. Get Brian Burns in there. Get Ter Gross-Matos, the second-round pick out of
Gross-Matos. Their defense definitely looks, in my opinion, more appealing than the offense.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was their appeal last year. I think I went on record last year saying that I thought they were going to be a top 10 defense overall.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that panned out, but they had a really solid young defense.
Yeah. The only thing with me is their defensive line, needs a little bit of work. Derek Brown has been up and down since he's been drafted. He was a 8th overall pick, I believe, a couple years ago. Kind of an up and down career to this point. You could probably say the same and have a similar comparison to Ed Oliver.
Yeah.
Up and down careers to this point. The other defensive linemen are Deshaun Williams and Shai Tuttle. They're also a 3-man front as well. So, granted, it's a little bit different. First round pick though, quarterback.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Number one overall. You don't trade. You don't go to number one overall for
nothing.
for not grabbing a quarterback.
Yeah.
Unless you're Houston, who, according to the rumor mill, might not go quarterback at number 2 overall. This is based off of D'Amico Ryan's quote of him saying they're not going to be drafting a franchise savior with their pick. So you could take that in multiple different ways. I think it was more of like, we're not going to throw this number 2 overall pick out to the Wolves. But their rumor mill is there's a guy
I think it's a smokescreen.
It probably is. It probably is. But you think about it like this. D'Amico Ryan's defensive head coach. There's talks that Nick Caserio is going to be leaving the Texans after the draft, going back to New England.
Yeah. Will
Anderson fits that defensive scheme really well, and he looks like to be the best true player in this draft. I don't. This isn't what I'm saying. Yeah. This is what the rumor mill is saying. But I can see where that kind of comes from. I can get it because you look at the Bills in 2017. I mean, they had Sean McDermott that kind of picked out the draft, and then
Doug Whaley got booted.
Exactly.
Right. Doug Whaley was basically like kind of he was there.
He was there, and then a month later, Brandon Beane got hired.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still ultimately think they're going to go Bryce Young.
It all depends on who. If they it depends how much they like Will Anderson. For me, if they think Will Anderson is the cast me out, then they can go. Cast me out. The bee's knees.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm digging out some
50s slang. You watching? 50s. You watch Grease or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Try to think of other references, but I can't right now. It depends how much they like Will Anderson. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea because they do have the 12th overall pick as well. They could. It just depends on how big of a priority quarterback is. In my mind, it's big priority. Davis Mills is not panning out in Houston, and I know last year I was a Davis Mill guy, but it can't go for that long. I can't keep
The
keep
slander
that up.
will be accepted.
The slander will be accepted. I can't keep that act up for a while. So.
So, I don't know. What if Bryce Young goes number 1 overall? What if Bryce Young is their true guy?
And that's another thing.
And what if Bryce Young goes number 1 overall? Then what?
That's another thing is if, like, they have – you ever see the movie Draft Day?
Yep.
And he had the name written on the note, like, sticky note. If they write Bryce Young's name down and that sticky note and he goes number 1 to Carolina, it could happen. It could happen, but I think –
Then do you wait to see if Will Levis falls to 12?
either
or...
wait to see Will Levis falls or maybe even like a Tyree Wilson. I don't think Tyree Wilson drops to 12, but
Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker. I don't know about 12. I don't know about 12, but
Some NFL teams think he's better than Levis and Richardson. All I'm saying. I didn't say it. They said it.
we will see. We will see. But I can see that happening though if like Houston has their guy, and he gets if Bryce Young gets picked and that was their guy too, I can see them going Will Anderson. But I think it's quarterback as well. Atlanta Falcons, 8th overall pick. Another team where they have a young guy quarterback. They have Desmond Ridder. It looks like they're rolling with him. They also have Taylor Heineke as well. The legend of Taylor Heineke has had his moments last couple years in Washington. It's looking like they're going with Ridder going forward, but you never know, really.
I don't think they'll take a quarterback. I don't remember if it was the head coach or the GM went out on record to say that they're gonna go all in on Desmond Ridder this year.
Yeah.
So if it pans out, great. Then they have their guy. But if not, they're gonna have a high draft pick and potentially go after Caleb Williams.
And I think if Desmond Ridder is your guy, you're all set on not taking a quarterback, then you need a guy to pair with Drake London. And so,
Okay.
And so
Spit it out.
In my mock draft, my 2.0, I have the Atlanta Falcons going Ohio State receiver Jackson Smith and Njigba at their 8th overall pick. Because you look at the Atlanta offense, you have Drake London, your number 1. Other than that, you have Mac Hollins, who was a number 2 for Vegas last year, but Mac Hollins,
He's a solid 2 or 3.
He's solid. I just, I wouldn't feel that safe with him.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Miller is your slot receiver, and then other than that, you just have a bunch of borderline making the roster kind of guys at receiver.
Man, they could have really used a guy like Calvin Ridley, huh?
They could. Calvin Ridley, Drake London, duo would have been beautiful. But, you know how that panned out.
Arthur Smith did not want that to happen.
Oh, yeah. Jackson Smith and Njigba, though, you put him in this offense, I think he, will help set up Desmond Ridder for success.
Do you think the signing of Scotty Miller kind of null and voids that? I mean, Scotty Miller is a slot receiver, and Jackson Smith and Njigba projects to be a slot receiver in the league.
I would take Jackson Smith and Njigba.
Oh, I would too.
Any day of the week.
But then it's like, how much money are you investing into the slot receiver position?
I mean, it all depends on. Here's the thing. You have a guy, it's like, I feel like, Brandon Cooks, he's a slot receiver, but he's always been touted as like a number 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Cooper Kupp, same way.
Yeah. I
mean, if you think you're drafting a Cooper Kupp and with Jackson Smith and Njigba, then
I
you
think
take it
if you're
every time.
Jackson Smith and Njigba is a first-round caliber receiver, top 10 caliber receiver.
He's the only consensus.
Only consensus number 1, as we've found out. I think it's a solid pickup here.
Yeah.
I don't think, I say why not? I say I go all in. Having a guy like Jackson Smith and Njigba in the slot. I know he's not your traditional outside receiver, but having a good slot on your team. And as you said, Mac Hollins, I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about him. He could operate as a solid number 2 in this offense. He did when he had a guy like Devontae Adams.
I think he'd perform better. I see what you're saying. He'd perform better as a 3 or a 4.
Yeah. So, he might benefit with Mac Hollins being out there, but I'd rather go the safe pick, get another young guy in Jackson Smith and Jiba, who is a solid, playmaker. Other, who do you have for your?
For me, Tyree Wilson fell to 8, so
Okay.
it was an easy pickup for me. I grabbed him there. There's not much else I can say. Some people have him ranked higher than Will Anderson, believe it or not.
Right.
He's going to be a very good player for a very long time, and that was kind of just like a best player available situation for me. So, but I could definitely see them going receiver if Tyree Wilson isn't there.
Right.
Their offensive line is okay. They definitely need help on the interior, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's just too high of a pick to go interior.
Right.
Maybe Steve Avila in the second if he's still there.
Yeah.
But up front, you're either getting potentially a top corner. Although no, they're not because they just
got Okuda.
That happened.
Yeah.
So
Okuda and
scratch
AJ
that.
Terrell.
Yeah,
unless you're gonna
that's-
put Okuda in the nickel, but you also have Casey Hayward, who is a solid.
Man, look at this secondary. I didn't realize it was this good.
They got Jesse Bates.
Yeah, they signed Jesse Bates.
Yeah.
Too. And they signed Calais Campbell
They did.
and David Onyemata. So,
They're two good veteran. Their interior defensive line, I feel like is solid. Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata's had some good years in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Calais Campbell's a guy, regardless of how long he's in the NFL. He's going to be.
you want him on your team.
You want him on your team. So I think pass rusher is also a good idea here. Tyree Wilson is there at 8. I think I could see it going
for me,
over.
that seems like a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. But for me, I have Tyree Wilson going the pick before
Yep.
to the Vegas Raiders.
Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I could see them going receiver if Tyree Wilson isn't there.
Yeah. So that's Atlanta. Let's go to our last team, the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints are drafting 29.
They're in no man's land.
They're in no man's land. They're kind of in a weird spot. They got that pick from San Francisco. What do you do here for San Francisco? Or not San Francisco, New Orleans. For me, at number 29, I have them going Pittsburgh defensive interior Kalijah Kancey. Some people have viewed Kancey as like a top 20 pick, top 25. I have him dropping a little bit.
He fell all the way down to 29 for you?
Yeah, he fell all the way to 29 for me.
Hey, Green Bay grabbing him at 15.
Ooh. Again, I wouldn't say that's a, Green Bay could use a little bit of defensive interior help, but I have him defensive interior wise. I have Breesy over him.
Okay.
Personally. And defensive interiors for me are just kind of they're a little weak overall as a group. I'd probably say like top 3 is Breesy, Kancey, and Mozzie Smith.
Are you
from
missing
Michigan.
Jalen Carter?
I'm forgetting Jalen Carter. Outside of Jalen Carter,
I like Mozzie Smith a lot.
yeah, Kalijah Kancey. It's just I don't know when you look at who needs the first round needs, defensive interior for some of these teams are, isn't the number one factor, number one need. I think in the first round, outside of Jalen Carter, you have Brian Breesy, Kancey, Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith is kind of like a borderline end of first round, second round guy for me. Kancey's a first-round guy to me. I just have him falling to 29. Granted, because you're gonna see a little bit of a run in my mock. You're gonna see a little bit of a run on receivers. You're gonna see like some tight ends go. Michael Mayer is also gonna go too. I just think priority-wise, it's gonna go down to New Orleans. They lost David Onyemata, as we just mentioned. Their defensive line outside of Cameron Jordan is a little sus.
Yeah.
They have Kalen Saunders, Nathan Shepard, Carl Granderson.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see pass rusher here as well. Cameron Jordan is up there in age. Draft for the future, draft another guy opposite of Jordan. I could see maybe a linebacker here at 29. I think you go defensive interior. As you said, they're in no man's land here. They have Derek Carr as their quarterback. They're rolling with him. Jameis Winston's still there. Running back, they're set on, unless Alvin Kamara goes to jail.
And even then, you still got Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams. So receivers are pretty set. I think Olave, Michael Thomas, and then Rashid Shaheed is becoming an emerging name in this offense, but I wouldn't.
With the way the league's going, it's a passing league. There is not a single team in this league that I think would be ruling out wide receiver.
Yeah. I wouldn't rule it out as well. If Kancey's not there at 29, I could see Mozzie Smith going there.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's actually who I had them drafting at.
You have them going Mozzie Smith?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Kancey for me just falls a little bit. I like Kancey a lot. For me, I don't know if I could just put him in my top 20. I like Breesy and Jalen Carter a little bit more. Jalen Carter obviously was the consensus number one until the Chicago Bears trade and then his incident with the law. So give me Kancey at 29, and then you have Mozzie Smith at 29.
Yes, sir. So we have the same position, just a matter of how the board fell.
Right. Other than that, for New Orleans, I mean, they lost David Onyemata. They didn't really lose a lot of people in defense. They're carrying over a lot of the same team from last year, just except Derek Carr's a quarterback. So
That's their guy.
Again, we'll see what New Orleans does. They're a little bit of a question mark for me.
I think they're a playoff hopeful.
They're a playoff hopeful.
That's
I think
my grade for them. I give it a B-.
I just think it depends on what version of Derek Carr you're getting as well. It depends on if Mike Thomas is going to be out there and being healthy. Because, we talked about, I think last show is Mike Thomas is kind of...
He's not getting any younger.
He's not getting any younger, and I don't even know if I value him as the number one in this offense anymore.
No, Chris Olave is kind of...
I think I said that last week, and I think you gave me like a look or something like that.
We were talking about the draft classes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've like I said last week, I still have to see more out of the 2022 class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've come around to that idea of Chris Olave becoming the number one.
Yeah, I just think right now he's valued as that right now. Just how Mike Thomas has not been on the field. Offensive line-wise, they have a solid offensive line. Trevor Penning from last year had a decent rookie year, not the greatest. Andrews Pete has been a solid guard. Eric McCoy, solid center. Cesar Ruiz. Ryan Ramczyk has been a top 5, top 10 offensive tackle in the league the last almost decade. Other needs I can maybe see, edge rusher. As we mentioned, Carl Granderson, not really your guy.
Really, it's just the front seven that they need help in.
Yeah, Peyton Turner, they drafted him in the first round, I think 2 years ago, and he's just not panned out at all. Linebacker could also be, a position they go for, but like a Jack Campbell or who's the guy from Washington State?
Drew Sanders,
or is that
or Dan Henley? Are you thinking of?
I think Henley is Washington State. I think you just said his name. What the heck?
Dan Henley?
No, the one before that.
Drew Sanders.
He's Arkansas. He's an Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see where they go. So that's the NFC South. A little bit of an interesting division. We'll see where that goes.
Let me ask you a question. So, let's say you were the general manager of a team, and this has been one of those things that I've been hearing you guys, all these different podcasts, talk about this stuff. So you're looking at you're getting ready, and you obviously have your lists that you need. So let's assume it's the first round, and you're drafting 16th, just somewhere right in the middle, and you need a linebacker. Let's say that's the thing you're really targeting. And the guy you really wanted, is still there, is not there. Like, he went. So the number 2 is there, let's say. But on the board, you also could use a cornerback. And there's a guy sitting there, number 1, and no one took him yet. What do? Do you, as a general manager, do you get the guy, or do you get what you need in that first round?
The way to do it, and this is how winners win and stay winning, is by picking the best guy available.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the position unless it's quarterback. I will no quarterback. And, quarterbacks are such a wild card with the draft because you either need a quarterback or you don't. So if you're in the house of don't need a quarterback, you're hoping that these quarterbacks go. And you hear GMs talk about it all the time. We watch the quarterbacks go, and then the entire draft board falls. So if I'm sitting at 16 and my top linebacker, who I had graded higher than any of the cornerbacks, was taken, I'm looking at the next position. Yeah, I might not need this corner, but he's the best player left on my list. I think about when the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb. They didn't need a wide receiver at the time, but look at how it turned out for them.
Right.
Now they have their top wide receiver for the next 10 years.
I think I would agree with that. I think that I would always take the best player on the board.
Yep.
Not if I'm like top 5. If I'm top 5 first-round draft, then I got to just grab.
You're going different. Whoever is that true
it's
talent.
Different. I mean, plus, let's be honest. If I'm in the top 5, I'm in trouble. I'm not. I'm rebuilding. I'm trying to fill in some pieces. I was in the bottom, 5 of the team.
Bottom of the barrel.
I hate to say it. At that moment, that one guy's not making the difference. Maybe it's quarterback. Let's just the
unless you are the Seattle Seahawks, who lucked into their top 5 pick.
Right.
They can just pick whoever the hell they want.
Look, who has 2 picks? Seattle has 2 picks.
Seattle
in the
has
first
2
round,
picks.
And Dallas has 2 picks.
Detroit. And Houston as well. But Houston is in a way different situation than
Philadelphia also picks.
Philadelphia also has
Philly, that's the one. It's like, are you kidding me? But obviously it shows that they're doing things right.
Right. Exactly.
They know when to move on. What about how were you in that? Do you agree with Nico on that?
I agree for the most part. It just all depends on how your team is looking. Yep. If you're top 5.
That's why I kind of went middle of the road.
Middle of the row, you're more primed, and you earned middle of the draft class. You didn't trade for that pick. That's where you.
Yeah, because if you're trading up, you're looking for something. You're trying to jump in and grab a guy while he's still there.
If you ended your season in the middle, you're kind of on that teeter totter. You're in the middle of. All right, well, I'm on the cusp of being a playoff team, or on the cusp of falling into the bottom half of the NFL. So I mean, it all depends on who's there at 16. If there's a guy who's fallen, you don't really know why he's fallen. You try to do as much research if he is the guy. He's gonna really propel your team to go forward. Then I would do it.
Unless he's running back, because nobody seems to want to draft.
Yeah.
Unless he's some generational running back, no one seems to ever want to pick the best running back on the board. How often anymore does a running back go in the first round? Maybe at the very end.
That's usually where it goes.
When they don't, when that's maybe the missing piece that team thought that they needed or something. That's why they didn't get that far.
And I'll say this about having the number 16, or you're in the middle of the road, and you don't need a quarterback. Your quarterback situation is set. Okay, 4 quarterbacks went in the top 10. You really have a top 12 pick, and you got to look at it like that, where it's you have every other position to pick from. Okay, maybe the top couple. A lot of times an edge rusher or a couple offensive linemen fall. You're good on offensive linemen, you're good on defensive linemen. I mean, that's usually what you see in these top picks. Okay. Let's look at a skill position player. If I'm at 16 overall and a wide receiver hasn't been taken yet, I probably don't need a wide receiver. I have a top half all theoretical, but I'm still taking wide receiver. I'm adding to that offense. It's a passing league, so it all depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But you got to look at it 4 quarterbacks went in the top 10, then I have a top 12 pick now.
Yeah, I think it's all just depends on who's there, and unless there is a glaring severe hole for position, then but then I'm absolutely having to pick for need. But
I could definitely see a situation where there's a guy who comes up and for whatever reason let's say again you were looking outside linebacker, right? But the guy you want is gone, and the guy number 2 I don't know. I just don't like him. Owner doesn't like him. Coach doesn't like him. He's not a room guy. I can see situations you're you know what? that's why sometimes these guys that's why I think that's definitely an example. I'm like I'm not gonna I know I have that hole, but he's not. He's the wrong, he's not the right hole. He's not the peg for that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the other peg, so it's interesting. I think so many people find the draft so interesting because
so much fun.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting thing to watch it and try to, that's even the movie,
it's really
Kevin Costner movie is such a good movie to watch. It's such a silly movie that if you don't understand sports, I don't know how you could ever watch that movie and what is this movie? But it gives you that kind of inside, thing.
It's the only time you can ever really pretend to be a GM, unless you're playing Madden. You get to, work through a mock draft or really do your research on guys. You're scouting for guys that really like the draft, for fans that really love the draft. You're pretending you're a scout and a GM all at once, and it's great reps just to learn and love the game of football. It's my second favorite weekend over opening weekend. I think I enjoy the draft more than I enjoy the Super Bowl.
Fair to say. Yeah, I mean,
which sports got your favorite draft?
NFL.
NFL, by all means.
NFL. So many people go hard for the NFL.
It's the best
as well.
production, I think. It's the best.
I think it's the purest draft.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have I
deal
don't
with
like the
lottery
NBA draft. I don't like the hockey draft for obvious reasons, being from Buffalo. We've gotten screwed so many times by their weird formulas, and it just seems like conspiracy guys all over Buffalo, guys like me, where I was like, we should have had Marlo Lemieux and all these other things that they've changed so many. It always seems to be, somebody got a special rule that came out of nowhere, and I think the NFL, that for sports that have the draft, not every sport has the draft, obviously. I think that, or it doesn't really matter because even the hockey draft is weird because you get college things and you can kind of ignore it and things like that. But that's why I think the NFL draft is kind of the purest. And I think that's why it's the NBA one, after the first day, who cares? It's almost it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Where the NFL, the 3-4 days, the first 2-3 days is kind of fun. The last days maybe not so much. But because it's kind of fun, especially if you're a team really in need, you're not, let's say you're a really good team. To be honest, the first round is almost disappointing because by the time they get to you,
it gives your
it's
team
kind of
hope.
who are you able to pick up? Who are you able to pick up in that second and third round? And did you trade up? And whatever. I think that's why it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I look forward to it a little bit too. I almost like the draft more than watching some of these games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're less aggravating.
I mean, that's all we have for today's show. Nico, do you have anything to add?
I got one question for you.
One question for me. What's the question?
Give me right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
Your top 5. We had a defensive back on earlier. Give me your top 5 secondaries.
Top 5 secondaries. You want 1 through 5 or do?
Give me 1 through. Give me 5 through 1.
5 through 1.
5 through 1.
5 through 1. Okay. Whew, all right, this is gonna be interesting. There's gonna be some hot takes in here.
All right.
For sure. Number 5. Give me the Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers.
Number 5.
Okay.
Number 4. Give me the. Number 4, give me Cleveland.
Okay.
Cleveland Browns. Number 3, give me the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Number 2, give me the Baltimore Ravens. And number 1, give me the Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a very drastically different list.
Let's hear it.
Number 5. Give me the Jets.
The Jets?
Give me the Jets. Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. They signed Chuck Clark. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's a solid back
Are you going off of
now?
Right
Current,
now, going into the season? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Number 4, give me the Bills. I think they've been a top 5 secondary unit for the last 5-6 years, and they got everyone coming back, and everyone's healthy too. Micah Hyde is getting back in there.
I gotta swap one out. Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas
Cowboys. I don't know why. Swap out. Hold on. finish your list, and I'll give you. I'm sorry. Give me your revised
Speaking
list.
of, number 3, I got the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Key addition is Stephon Gilmore. Now pair that with Trayvon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. This is going to be probably one of the best secondaries, if not the best secondary, by the end of the season this year.
Right.
Number 2, give me the San Francisco 49ers. They had a 91.5 coverage grade on PFF, and Hufanga has been absolutely phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
So give me the San Francisco 49ers at number 2. Number 1, give me the Dolphins.
Dolphins. Ooh, see the Dolphins for me. They got the guy.
They got X. Now they got Byron Jones and your third receiver.
Yeah. Byron Jones.
And Jalen Ramsey, let's not forget.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if I have to say more.
Yeah. They're okay. Let me give you my revised. Okay. Let me revisit. Number 5.
I've changed your mind a little bit, I hear.
Number 5, give me. I'm gonna keep the Chargers at 5.
Okay.
4, give me. All right, 4, give me the Bills at 4.
Okay.
Give me the Bills at 4. 3, give me the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
2, give me Green Bay Packers. 1, give me Dallas.
Dallas at 1.
So, see, I forgot about Dallas. I'm not going to lie. I totally forgot about Dallas. Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas getting Stephon Gilmore was kind of low-key one of the best moves of the offseason by any team.
Dallas, I mean, yeah, pairing Trayvon Diggs with Stephon Gilmore is just criminal. I think it's a little criminal. I mean, I think a lot of people are seeing it's a little, too under the radar.
Did you say Stephon Diggs and Trayvon Gilmore?
Oh my God. Did I say that? I hope I didn't say that.
I was lost there for a second.
I hope I didn't say that. I really hope.
No, I don't think that's what he said.
Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore.
Trayvon Diggs, I think. Yeah,
you said
Stephon
Gilmore. I think
Stephon Gilmore.
You said Stephon Gilmore. I think is what
yeah. Honorable mentions. Cleveland's up there.
Cleveland's definitely up there.
If I had to give like a top 10, I mean, Cleveland's up there. Miami's up there for sure. Who else? Trying to think of anybody else. Philadelphia's up there too. Philadelphia was a team that I wanted to put in my top 5 as well. But they San Francisco is also in my top 5 as well, or top 10. Honorable mentions, top 10. But yeah. Denver is also up there too.
Denver with Pat Surtain in there.
See, a top 10 is easier. But top 5 is a little.
Then we could go on. We could go on and on for that.
Yeah. That might be a little bit of a tough take. I don't know. I mean, Dallas had a solid secondary without adding Stephon Gilmore, and then you add him in. I mean, with Miami, I do. Byron Jones' play has declined. I will say this. Xavier Howard is good, for sure. He's a top corner. I don't know. He's up there. He's good, but I know Dane was just talking about this the other day, and he was like, he wasn't really before the Jalen Ramsey trade. He wanted them to get another cornerback, and then the Jalen Ramsey trade happened. And you're like, well.
Well, now, yeah, you're pushing all your top guys down a level. Yeah. So now they're facing lesser talent than they were before because Jalen Ramsey has your number 1 wide receiver on lock, unless your name is Stephon Diggs.
Byron Jones to me is decent. Has always been a decent guy. Not really a top guy for me.
I think he'll do much better now in the CB3 role.
Xavier Howard has been a top corner, but I think, there has been a lot of moments where he has gotten cooked, here and there. And then, Jalen Ramsey. Is Jalen Ramsey the same Jalen Ramsey?
True. That's
another thing you got to think about because they dealt him for a bag of chips. They really that's a 5th-round pick. Same as Stephon Gilmore. I think they're two guys who can still play for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But is Jalen Ramsey still the same Jalen Ramsey?
That's a fair. I mean, that's a fair ask.
He got bullied. Well, granted, the Rams were the Rams last year. They were not good. I don't know. That's why Miami, to me, I mean, statistically, I think statistically they were, I don't know if they were top 5 last year statistically, unless I'm wrong. Pretty sure I looked up and saw that
they were middle of the pack.
They were middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So that's why they're not top 5 for me.
I think I just personally think Jalen Ramsey changes things.
Yeah.
And then before we go, I have one more. I got one more little.
Oh Lord.
I want to play a little game, and I've been meaning to do this for a few weeks now, so
Okay.
we're just gonna rip it out on show right now.
Okay.
Would you rather? Daniel Jones edition.
Daniel Jones edition. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well,
So,
this is interesting.
Daniel Jones is your first. You have to pick. Would you rather start your franchise with it?
Start my franchise. Okay.
Following quarterbacks.
Okay.
So, Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Mac Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Kyler Murray.
Huh. I don't know.
Off rip. You got 2 seconds. 2.
Kyler
1.
Murray. Kyler Murray, because I have a lot of hope for him, but I just think Arizona is a mess as a whole.
Daniel Jones.
Kyler Murray, not by much.
Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Geno Smith.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
That was kind of a layup. Daniel Jones or Trey Lance.
Daniel Jones. Trey Lance, we just haven't seen enough yet. I want to see Trey Lance for my own fantasy dynasty's sake. Daniel Jones.
I got 2 more. Daniel Jones or Jared Goff.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Derek Carr.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is starting to make his case for a top 12 quarterback in the league.
He started to, yeah, for sure.
Last one, actually. I have to add this one. Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott.
Okay, now that one's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Woo! Right now, laser beam pointing at us.
Like, Earth's going to explode.
Earth's gonna explode. Oh Lord.
You have either Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones to throw a 20-yard mesh route. Intermediate zone scheme. You got Randy Moss, Kelvin Johnson, and
this is getting serious.
Stephon Diggs as your wide receivers.
Oh my God.
Laser beam pointing at the earth, shooting.
Aliens are pointing at it. Give me Iguodala. No. Right now, April 12th, 2023. Oh my God, I'm gonna get killed for this. Dak Prescott.
No. Give me Daniel Jones.
Dak Prescott. I don't know. See, listen, Daniel Jones, as you said, that's a fair point. He's getting into that top 12 range. Is he better than Dak right now?
Yes.
I'm still giving a slight edge to Dak.
Why?
Oops, I don't know. I'm slamming my
Is
hands.
it name value?
I wouldn't say it's name value. I mean, it's just right now, success-wise, Dak hasn't been that successful. That's the thing.
Success-wise, none of them have won.
Listen, before this year, I thought Daniel Jones was bust. That was my personal thing. This year, he's shown me some things. With the right coaching staff, he's a solid quarterback. Right now, though, I'm going Dak. And it's tough for me to say this. Granted, Dak has been blessed with a lot of weapons. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Des Bryant. Right now, just give me Dak Prescott. I don't know. It's because Dak has brought his team it's just he's been in the league a little bit longer. He's not that old. He's what, 28? 28, yeah, he's not, he's not up there, really. He's getting up there.
He's getting
He's
old.
not, give me Dak right now. Daniel Jones, if he has another year like he did last year, brings his Giants to the playoffs, then we'll revisit. I'll say Daniel Jones. Right now, though, give me Dak.
Daniel Jones did more with less. Imagine if
That is true.
Let's swap. Let's jersey swap real quick.
Jersey swap.
Daniel Jones is throwing to CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Tony Pollard in the backfield with him at the time, Dalton Schultz. Or Dak Prescott was throwing to Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, Daniel Bellinger, and what's left of Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon had a good year.
He did. He was solid. Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. It's definitely tough. I just need to see more from Daniel. That's the thing. Like, I saw a lot of good.
I want to see when he kind of came out of nowhere, and I think this year they're going to kind of figure him out. You could kind of see as the season was going on.
Are they going to figure him out, or
I think they're going to figure
Brian
him
Daboll out?
No, I think it's Daboll's stuff to figure out. I think they're going to figure him out. I don't think he's. I can't believe how much money they paid him. You know what I mean? Like
Him and Dak Prescott are making right around the same amount of money.
I don't agree with Prescott's money either, but that's a tough one but I still think Prescott's still got a little bit more. He's not Tony Romo 2.0 yet. Like he's getting there. If he doesn't show us something this year, then he's just another Tony Romo.
He's
just
one
another
more
long,
mid-season away
he's
from a
just one
broadcasting
more,
career with CBS.
Good, almost good, almost did it. Which for us anti-Dallas Cowboy fans, great. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think Jones just hasn't shown. He's only got 1 year. He's got to show. He's got to give me a second year. Then I think your point's more whatever.
Here's the thing. So let's look at some stats real quick.
Okay.
Before we go.
Okay.
Daniel Jones, this past year, put up career high in passing yards, 3,205 yards. Only had 15 touchdowns though.
Okay.
Granted, that's not counting rushing as well. Only 5 interceptions. So very mistake free. Completion percentage is 67.2. That's solid. Years prior, 10 touchdowns to 7 picks, 11 touchdowns to 10 picks, 24 touchdowns to 12 picks in his rookie year. And then we look at Dak. Dak has been in the league obviously longer. Dak, rookie year, 3,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, 4 picks. 2016 and 2021. 2021, he had almost 4,500 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. I mean, 2020, he was injured. I think that was the year where he snapped his ankle, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So disregard 2020, really. He really hasn't been, bad, in my opinion. He had 1 year, 2017, kind of took a little bit of a dip from his rookie year, went 124 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, finished with a career low 86.6 passer rating. But he hasn't dipped below basically 97 in the passer rating until this past year, 2022. Did he miss any games this year for Dallas?
Dak?
Yeah.
Yeah, he missed 5 of them.
Yeah, he missed 5
Remember
games.
when Cooper Rush came in?
Yeah, he had his injuries. Finished this year, though, with 2,800.
So that's another factor, too.
Yeah.
Dak has been injured multiple times now.
Yeah. Right now, Dak isn't ancient.
What is Dak providing with you on the ground?
Dak providing with me
182 rushing yards and 1 touchdown versus Daniel Jones 708 yards and 7 touchdowns. Might I add him being one of the fastest dashes out of any player in the league?
I mean, that's nice, but I don't know if that's coming into my. What was his rushing stats? You said.
Daniel Jones had 120 rushes for 708 yards and 7 touchdowns, averaging 5.9 yards an attempt. Dak Prescott had 45 rushes for 182 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 4 yards per attempt.
He did have 708 rushing yards, and that's impressive. That is impressive.
That's approaching near 4,000 total yards this year.
Yeah.
With the supporting cast of Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins, Daniel Bellinger.
That is impressive.
Wandale Robinson.
That gives him 22 total touchdowns on the year.
With Dak had 24. Now, granted, he had multiple less games played,
Yeah.
but I would argue that the Dallas Cowboys have a much friendlier offense for quarterbacks, a much pass heavier offense for quarterbacks.
Better line, and you had Pollard and Zeke, and he had prime Zeke as well. You know,
Their
this
passer
past year,
rating-
not really. No.
Their passer rating was near identical, 92.5 for Daniel Jones, 91.1 for Dak Prescott.
Out of pure passing, I think Dak has him right now.
But you can't even, because then it's like Lamar Jackson. you can't use pure passing anymore in this league. If this was, you know, in the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, yes. But we're in a new era of quarterbacks here. You need to be dual threat. You need to have that capability to run on a dime whenever.
Dak has had his time as a, you know, he's shown some
Not last year.
rush. Not last year, but he's shown some signs of being a dual threat, and he snapped his ankle. I mean, maybe they're trying to avoid situations like that. I mean, you know, from rushing wise, he was a solid rushing quarterback. I mean, he was averaging around 300 yards rushing. His first 3 years in the league, he had 6 touchdowns in each season. After that, you know, 2019 dipped a little bit to 277 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2020 was when he snapped his ankle. After that, his scrambling stats almost split in half. I mean, 146 yards and a touchdown and 182 and a touchdown.
I don't know. I guess.
I don't know. Right now, I'm going Dak. That's just I'm staying firm with Dak. I'm sounding like a Dallas Cowboys fan over here. And I really don't want to sound like one. But right now I'm going Dak. But listen, you give me another Daniel Jones year. I just want to see a little bit more of him as a passer.
That's fair.
You know, rushing, he's established himself, as we can see. Give me a little bit more as a passer, and you know, I will make the debate. And also, if they go out and get a receiver.
All this being said, give this man Danny some weapons.
Yeah, you get this
Please.
man. If you get Danny, you know, a true number 1 receiver, and his passing numbers spike up, then by all means, I'm putting him over Dak. But right now, just give me Dak.
They got Darren Waller now. Let's see what that does.
Alrighty, we're pushing 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we're near 2 hours.
Yeah, we're gonna sign off. Thank you, Gerod, for coming on. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Maranto and Emerge. Thank you, Matt Johnson and BICPP Radio Network. We'll see you on for next week, episode 41 of the Big Yak Podcast. Oh my God, Big Yak Podcast. It's 2 hour show. I'm starting to go delusional. See you next week.